Trust, the foundation of every journey. In this opening chapter, I share my ongoing struggle with trust, a challenge that has persisted well into my adult years. I open up about this deeply personal issue as the gateway to my story, acknowledging that the work of healing is never truly complete. By daring to trust others with my narrative, I embrace vulnerability as the first step toward rebuilding my foundation. Trust may seem like a simple concept, yet it carries the weight of both truth and deception. It exists as a delicate balance between light and shadow, a force that quietly underpins every interaction in our lives. But what does trust really mean, and what gives it such transformative power? Its intricate nature not only fascinates, but also empowers us to confidently navigate the complexities of life. Trust is a bond, a bridge between two people or more. It's the core of relationships, from when a child is born into this world to the fragile threads that hold families together. Trust allows a newborn to take its first breath with the assurance that the world will meet it, even as the doctor, in whose hands they are placed, can only do so much. Trust is the invisible thread that binds the family unit, a unifying force that runs deeper than any bloodline. It is the essential ingredient that creates the foundation of a family, the bedrock on which every decision is built. Parents trust each other to make the right choices, even when unsure. They give themselves over to this mysterious force, believing that together, they'll do their best to guide their child through a world that is sometimes more uncertain than they could have imagined. The roots of trust and expectations. But there's another side to trust that we rarely talk about: expectations. Too often, we give our trust based on what we hope for, not on what we've indeed seen. How many times have we said, "Trust me, I know what I'm doing," when deep down, we aren't quite so sure ourselves? Trust, in its most basic form, is a gift, yet it reflects our inner desires, motives, and what we wish to see in others. Sometimes we trust not because we've seen it, but because we want to see it. We want to believe in someone, in something, so much that we place our trust there, even when the person hasn't fully earned it. It reflects our unmet needs, or perhaps a desire to fix what we see as broken in them, a desire to see the potential they may not yet see in themselves. I'm not claiming that this is true for everyone. Still, if I'm being honest with myself, and with you, there have been times when I've given trust based on expectations, not the reality in front of me. And if I told you otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you the truth. Trust is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It's complex, layered, and often misunderstood. It can be fragile or intense, depending on the foundation on which it stands. In the world we live in, trust is too often distorted. It's so easy to tear down a person's character, to assassinate their reputation, because salacious stories make money. We see it all the time. Headlines that profit from scandal, from the lowest form of humanity, while the truth-tellers and the righteous walk in the shadows, unnoticed by the masses. What we fail to realize, however, is that these stories are often based on a lie. They prey on our insecurities, our need for something to feel confident about in a world that usually makes no sense. The truth is often buried beneath layers of noise, hidden from view by those who benefit from its being out of sight. But those who have walked through the fire and learned to trust with discernment know there is power in truth. We understand that trust, when earned and given wisely, is a shield that protects us from the chaos of a world that thrives on instability. This discernment, this ability to see through the noise and recognize the truth is a powerful tool that empowers us in our relationships and interactions, making us insightful and wise. Trust earned, not given away lightly. And so, as I have grown, through the trials, the triumphs, and the countless lessons learned along the way, my approach to trust has evolved. Trust is no longer a simple matter of believing people without question. It is no longer a matter of trusting to please others or make myself feel better. It's no longer the naive trust that once allowed me to make decisions based on hope rather than facts. Now trust is sacred, something I extend carefully out of wisdom and understanding. This evolution, this journey of learning to trust wisely, has been a significant part of my personal growth, inspiring me to be more discerning and thoughtful in my relationships. It's a journey that I hope will inspire you to consider your approach to trust and how it has evolved over time. It is not a simple transaction. It's not about words or promises made in passing. It's about a person's essence, character, integrity, and actions that follow their words. I've learned that trust can't be bought with a smile or a handshake. It must be earned through consistent behavior, through proof that someone will do what they say they will do, no matter the cost. And while it may take time for someone to prove themselves, that does not mean I am to take it lightly when they fall short. Trust is earned, not given away, as if it costs nothing. This emphasis on earning trust is a testament to the respect we should have for the concept of trust, and it's a principle that guides our interactions and relationships, making us feel respected and valued. Reflection must be connected to one central theme: trust. This isn't optional. It's the foundation this entire work stands on. And believe it or not, I was born into that foundation. Not into fame, fortune, or a 5-year plan, but into raw, unspoken trust. Before I knew my name, before I knew anything about this world, my life rested in the hands of people who promised to show up for me. I couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't even hold my own head up, and yet, I trusted without question. What choice did I have? Trust was my first survival skill. It's wild when you think about it. You're literally handed to a group of people and expected to just roll with it. No background check, no interview process, just vibes. But that's how it starts. Trust isn't just a theme. It was the atmosphere I inhaled before I even understood language. And somewhere deep down, I must have known that love, safety, and connection were meant to be mine. Now, as I got older, and by older, I mean the age when you start realizing the people raising you are just making it up as they go, I started romanticizing that moment I came home from the hospital. I imagined it like the closing scene of a heartfelt family sitcom. Baby wrapped in a soft blanket. Lights dimmed just right. Music swelling in the background. Cue the applause. Was it really like that? Who knows? Probably not. But that version stuck with me. It became the emotional wallpaper of my origin story. And honestly, sometimes the feeling of a memory is more important than the facts. We remember what we needed, not just what happened. My dad, never one to miss a joke, used to laugh about the day I was conceived like it was some epic cosmic event, and maybe it was. Underneath his humor was something real, a love between two people, fragile and human, but powerful enough to bring me into the world. That love, mixed with faith and a little reckless hope, built the first version of trust I'd ever know. Some things don't need to be proven in a lab. They just are. And through every high, low, and silent in-between, God was there, quietly holding it all together, even when everything else fell apart. So no matter where the story wanders, through pain, betrayal, healing, or awakening, let it always come back to trust. The trust I was born into, the trust I gave, the trust that was broken, stolen, or slowly rebuilt. The trust I had to relearn with myself. Even before I took my first breath, trust had already been tested. As an innocent soul entering a world of uncertainty, I stepped into a legacy where faith was often fragile, even broken. Amid echoes of past doubts and lingering scars from bygone betrayals, my parents embraced a resilient, unspoken belief, a commitment to trust that transcended the shaky beginnings of our family's story. There was an unyielding force at work from the start, the steadfast confidence my parents had in each other, and the deep faith they placed in us as we grew up together. Despite uncertainties and a trust that had been tested long before my arrival, that very act of choosing to trust became the foundation of our lives. Every challenge we faced only served to reinforce that bond, proving that even a delicate, sometimes questioned promise can become the cornerstone that carries us through each new chapter. The wisdom of trust. Trust, when you get down to it, is not just about people, it's about God. The Bible speaks to this repeatedly, reinforcing the idea that our trust should ultimately rest in something greater than ourselves. The trust that God places in us and that we put in Him is the most substantial, enduring trust we can know. It is the guiding force that anchors us when everything else feels unsteady. As I continue to grow, I am learning more about trust. I am learning that it's not just something we give away. It's something we must protect. It's something we must nurture, even in the face of hardship. And we must extend it to others with wisdom, recognizing that it takes time to build and even longer to restore once broken. Above all, trust is a gift that we should give with the understanding that it has the power to heal, build, and create connections that will last a lifetime. So when I extend my trust now, I do so with the knowledge that it is a sacred act that reflects the journey I've been on, the lessons I've learned, and the grace I've received along the way. Trust isn't just about people. It's about understanding the deeper connections that bind us all and knowing that, with God's guidance, we can find the strength to trust in what truly matters. Sometimes, the hardest lesson is learning to follow our own advice, to slow down, to move forward. It's the familiar reminder to put on your own oxygen mask first. Still, it's taken years to understand the balance between protecting my peace and extending myself to others. My life hasn't been hard or easy. It's been life. The story of a country boy seeking a place in the world and within himself, a space where strength could be drawn from hardship, wounds could become wisdom, and insecurities could be acknowledged, not as shackles, but as stepping stones. I often forgot to nourish what I was meant to become, to avoid becoming what I feared. That tension between fear and becoming has made this path of self-discovery the most intricate, honest, and powerful part of my life. And in navigating it, I've learned the value of a safe space to grow, a space I hope others can also find. The thread of trust. Growing up in the countryside, where the stars burned brighter and the air carried stories on the wind, I often felt lost in the silence. The fields around me were like oceans, and the nights echoed with owls and crickets instead of chaos. In those long, quiet moments, I began to reflect. Life in those early years was a dance between joy and struggle, laughter and loneliness, strength and vulnerability. In that mix, I began to understand what living truly means. As a child, it was overwhelmingly confusing to reconcile that pain and love could seem so intertwined. I knew my grandmother loved me. Her affection was a constant, a secure embrace in an otherwise turbulent world. But even that love was mingled with confusion. I remember hiding in the closet as Mom and Dad fought for hours. In those moments, I wondered if their endless battles meant they still loved and trusted each other, or if love itself had become something unrecognizable. In my young mind, the meaning of love was a complicated puzzle, its pieces blurred by both sheltering warmth and sharp, searing pain. A puzzle I'm only beginning to understand as I dive deeper into these stories. I learned at an early age that love hurt, and I trusted those around me that it was the way to be. From the scar I still bear under my eye, left by a fearful or wielded fan belt from some random vehicle, but had become a presence of discipline in the home. I had to trust I was loved, even while hearing and being tarnished with words that I would be like my no-good daddy, or crazy just like my mammy, or that's why your daddy left you, which led into an entire different set of insecurities that then left me feeling out of place. I trusted those words from my grandmother and grandfather so much as a child that it haunted me to figure out what was wrong. Later on, you will see how that trust challenged my existence, even though on many occasions, as a child, my parents' presence ebbed and flowed like the tides, leaving me to watch others bask in a happiness that always felt just out of reach. That glaring discrepancy filled me with both envy and confusion. I wondered why the life I knew was so markedly different. Over time, I realized that being raised under my grandmother's protective wing was not a setback, but a setup for survival. My grandmother's love was fierce and unwavering, yet it came with its own complexities. Her care, though a haven, was laced with conditions, a constant, unspoken reminder that our parents never truly wanted us. I learned early on that we were, in a cruel sort of way, the lucky ones. For at any moment, without her shelter, we could have found ourselves on the unforgiving streets. She shielded me in ways that only love can, sometimes keeping me home from school to hide bruises, whether inflicted by a harsh word or the blow of an unintended misstep. And even as her protective embrace offered solace, it also bore the weight of painful truths, that survival in our world meant accepting a bittersweet inheritance. Those moments, as excruciating as they were formative, etched a profound silence into my soul and taught me to read between the lines of life's harsh lessons. In that stillness, beneath the layers of conditioned pain and love, I began to cultivate seeds of resilience that continue to grow within me. Each scar, each whisper of abandonment, stands as a reminder that even in our most confusing and painful times, a wellspring of strength and clarity can emerge, guiding me toward hope, healing, and a future defined by the triumph of a spirit that refuses to break. I often hear, and I have been guilty of saying, back in the days when children were spanked, but that statement has stayed with me because I wondered if others were being beaten and slapped. Sometimes I wanted to be put out on the streets, the claim that came with almost every discipline, or the boasting words to remind me and my siblings how lucky we were. Honestly, I thought I knew the definition of luck. It was kind of like being a second-hand citizen, and the truth is, I didn't realize until way later in life that just because it's family doesn't mean you have to trust them. So even with trust, trauma, and drama, I found isolation in hopes it would prevent me from having to ever trust again because of a detachment, and I could build in my own corner of the world and generate love and trust that was withheld from me. As I matured, those childhood insecurities followed me like shadows. I measured myself against others and came up short, again and again. The comparison game became a prison, limiting my vision and stifling my potential. I was so preoccupied with avoiding failure that I neglected to water the roots of success. It wasn't until I hit a painful low point that I was forced to take a hard look at myself. I realized I had to shift my lens, from lack to abundance, from fear to faith. And that shift, it wasn't easy. It meant wrestling with thoughts that had long gone unchallenged, fears I had ignored, and emotions I had buried. But within that hard work, I uncovered a strength I didn't know I had. The journey of self-reflection became my lifeline. I learned that transformation isn't reserved for the lucky. It's available to the willing. Faith was the cornerstone of my turnaround. My relationship with God became my grounding, giving me clarity when the world around me felt like chaos. Through prayer, meditation, and stillness, I began to see my struggles not as setbacks, but as setups for growth. My family, too, stood beside me with love that never wavered. In their eyes, I saw the reflection of who I could become. They reminded me, sometimes with words, sometimes with presence, that I had a place where I belonged. Of course, the road was littered with disappointments. There were days when giving up seemed like the only option. But even in those darkest moments, I found light in life's smallest gestures. A child's laughter, a shared smile, the hush of a sunset. Those quiet blessings reminded me of the beauty that still existed and gave me just enough strength to keep going. And there still are days when forgetting or tucking away the bad things doesn't mean they didn't happen. Even into adulthood, there are things that impact the way I move, the way I parent, my need for privacy, and my tendency toward isolation. These experiences have shaped me profoundly, influencing my interactions and decisions in ways I continue to uncover. I'm not mad at my grandmother. I'm not mad at my mother. I'm not mad at my father. I'm not mad at my family, because I see from the distance they have put blockades in place to dismantle unhealthy behaviors that negatively impact our lineage. Their efforts, though imperfect, have been a testament to resilience and the desire to break cycles of pain and dysfunction. Looking back, my life feels like a woven tapestry. Each thread, trial, and triumph plays its part in shaping me. Financial hardship, school pressure, emotional pain, and moments of grace have taught me resilience and gratitude. I've realized that life isn't about chasing some far-off destination. It's about fully engaging with the journey. Each messy, magnificent, meaningful step. I carry that truth with me now. To live with intention, move through the world gracefully, and be gentle with myself. This is my story, still unfolding, with new lessons waiting on every page. And the most profound realization, the deepest journey is the one we take within, to discover the strength, love, and light already inside us. Today, I move forward with a heart full of purpose and a spirit strengthened by wisdom, hers and mine. I carry with me the gift of someone who held space for me, spoke truth wrapped in love, and saw the light in me long before I could see it myself. We all deserve that kind of presence, someone who believes in us gently, fiercely, and consistently, until we learn to believe in ourselves. As I continue walking this ever-unfolding journey, I do so with deep gratitude for the faith that grounds me, a family that anchors me, mentors who lift me, and the winding path that has shaped me. My story is still unfolding, each chapter written with grace, courage, and a quiet resolve to grow through it all. Through every rise and stumble, I remain devoted to living with intention, learning with humility, and loving with an open, enduring heart.